So we're here to talk about education abroad at CWU, and I've tried to target this directly to the university centers, students at the university centers. And I understand that many of you, for example, have very tight timelines. You're obviously juniors and seniors, so that requires some forethought and planning. Also, students at the centers by and large, or can be more frequently non-traditional students with families and work and things like that. So they may not have as much time as a more traditional age student here on the main campus. So I've tried to kind of walk that line to kind of highlight things that I think might actually be really good for student at the centers are more appropriate. Obviously, any of our programs are open to any of our students. Just tried to kind of highlight things I think might be better to the students' needs. And like I said, feel free to ask questions at any point during this. All right, so we are the Office of International Studies and Programs. Okay. So here are our contact details. You can find us online. The shortcut to the website is cwu.edu/education abroad, all one word. This is the phone number to the main International Studies and Programs office. And then you have an email address which will contact both Matthew and me simultaneously. So one of us will be guaranteed to get it and respond to you. And then here's our social media contacts as well. And so this is me. I'm Steve Cook, the Associate Director for Education Abroad. That's also me almost 25 years ago, while I was my third year at CW. As I told Sunmi, I was a social studies education major and a German teaching minor, and I spent 1 year in Austria. And this is me freezing in November in Vienna, trying to stay out of the very cold wind. And obviously it was just before Christmas, hence the Santa Claus hat. But these are all the things that I advise on, our CW exchanges, which I'll mention here in a moment. The CW in Leon program, our Summer in Seoul program, the direct enroll Curtin University in Australia, scholarships, programs with a specific partner in Costa Rica, our international studies minor, and then I'm in charge of the Global Education Scholars program. And that is my direct contact information, which I'll leave up here just for another beat. And then I will introduce Matthew Zielsdorf, who is not as comfortable showing an old photo of himself, but he is on the call there. You can see him. And his advising duties, he's a senior study abroad advisor. And I know he has spent time abroad himself. He advises for our faculty directed programs, again, which I'll clarify what those are here in a moment. So, and then non-CW sponsored education abroad programs through our outside partnerships. He works with students doing international internships, research abroad, and then he also helps me advise, or we advise together on scholarships. And this is his direct contact information. Okay. All right, so just some quick facts about education abroad. There are programs in a broad range of disciplines. You don't necessarily have to be any specific major in order to participate in education abroad. There's also a broad range of models. So these include traditional classes, practica and internships, and also service learning. Credit can apply to majors, minors, certificates. Most of you don't have to worry about general education or general electives, but generally they can apply to those as well. We do have programs available all over the world. Certainly there are some places where we're not going to send students at the moment. Afghanistan, for example, but I have seen programs in Antarctica, for example. There are a variety of program durations, so you're not necessarily limited to a semester or academic year. We have programs that can range from anywhere from 1 week over spring break to the full academic year, and sometimes even shorter if students are attending a conference or things of that nature. Program costs vary, and financial aid and scholarships are available. And then it is possible to study in English if you wish, even in a non-English speaking country. Okay. So these are generally program options. So university exchanges and partnership programs. So these are what I advise on mostly. We have faculty directed programs, outside programs, internships, and then research, volunteer, and service learning programs. And so this gives you an idea of roughly how this presentation will be divided when we talk about programs. So I'll start with university exchanges. So because of our partner universities' academic calendars, these are either semester or academic year options. The cost of participation is going to be similar to CWU. Students do not pay true tuition at either university. Instead, they pay a program fee to our office that is based on CWU tuition and fees, at least based on Ellensburg tuition and fees and resident tuition and fees for that academic year. So if any of you are international students, you are more than welcome to participate, but we're also not basing your program fee on the non-resident tuition. Everybody is charged the same program fee, which again is based on resident tuition. Because we're dealing with semesters versus quarters to make the math easy, those program fees are 1.25 of fees of tuition and fees, and then how a semester matches up with our calendar depends a little bit on where and when you're going. In some locations, one semester in the fall, for example, can mean the student's only gone for our fall quarter. Whereas in the spring, it might mean that they're gone for both the winter and spring quarters. In some cases that have an alternate academic calendar, like Australia, Japan, Korea, that can be reversed, potentially. One of the benefits of exchanges, these are opportunities for cultural immersion and language learning, because you're taking classes with local students or with students from around the world. Eligibility is going to vary by each partner. And then we do have 2 application deadlines for exchanges throughout the year. For a fall start, whether it's 1 or 2 semesters for a start in the fall, our application deadline is March 1st. For a spring start, or for a winter or spring start, so whether that's January, anywhere January through April, again, whether it's 1 semester or 2, that application deadline is September 1st. And these are set with the idea of allowing students time for our processes to go through as far as review, but then also to give them enough time to complete our partner applications before those partner deadlines. Okay? Because there is a 2-stage application process. These are our current university exchanges. We have Queensland University of Technology in Brisbane, Australia. For students who are whose majors fall within the College of Business, this can be a good partner because their School of Business is AACSB accredited, just as ours is. So that means that it's much easier to transfer back to 300 and 400 level classes. We have Université d'Orléans in France, and this is geared towards more towards students who are students of French. But if students have advanced French proficiency, they can take other classes as well. There's the Technical University of the Shannon, Midlands, and West in Ireland, which is in the city of Limerick. We do have a preference for students who are within the Department of art and design, but is not exclusive. It's not limited to those students. And we have 4 partners in Japan: Kyoto University of Foreign Studies, Asia University, Takashoku University, Tokyo Gakugei University, the latter 3 of which are all in the greater Tokyo area. And in Kyoto University of Foreign Studies is in Kyoto. Most of these are geared towards students who are majoring in Japanese language or already have a high proficiency of Japanese. Whereas Kyoto University of Foreign Studies has 2 tracks, one of which allows students to study Japanese language, and the other track is like global studies, international studies, Asian studies, with classes conducted in English. We have 2 partners in South Korea, both of which are located in Seoul. One is Ewha Women's University, which also has an AACSB accredited School of Business. And even though the name of the university is Ewha Women's University and its students will all be women, the exchange is open to students of all genders. They have a wide range of classes conducted in English for those students who don't speak Korean. So I think it's somewhere between 30 and 40% of their classes, and in a wide variety of topics, including, as I alluded to, business. The other partner in Korea is Kookmin University. While it offers business, it is not AACSB accredited. Most of the students here will take classes in their College of General Education, which are kind of Korean studies, global studies, art, things of that nature. That's what's conducted in English. For those students who wish, they can also take Korean language and culture classes, and that's possible at both partners. And then, yeah, if students who have advanced Korean would like to study there may be other possibilities as well. And then finally, we have 2 partners in Scotland: Edinburgh Napier University, which is in Edinburgh, and then the University of Dundee. Okay. All right, there are no questions. We'll go ahead and move on. All right, then, so I'm going to give a separate, more detailed presentation about this on Thursday. But this is our CWU Intensive Spanish in León program. It is a partnership with the Centro de Idiomas de la Universidad de León, which is in León, Spain, which is, depending on which train you get on, about 2.5 to 5 hours northwest of Madrid, in the region of León. And this is purely for students who want to take and learn Spanish. So it's anywhere from beginning, but not necessarily absolute beginners, to advanced levels. We do recommend a basic knowledge of Spanish, but it's not required. It's just the program is not geared for absolute beginners, so there will be a fairly steep learning curve. Students can do 1 quarter. They can do an academic year, and there are also summer programs as well. The terms while the main university is on a semester system, the terms at the language center basically match up very well with our quarters. So students can do that and still do like 1 quarter if they want. In terms of the number of credits that are available in this program, in the summer, it's up to about 8 to 16, depending on whether you do 2 of the 4-week sessions or both of them. And then the quarter, it's up to about 24 credits. Again, this is all Spanish language and culture. The program includes excursions. It looks like I missed out a word there. It should be includes excursions in the city and in the greater region of León. So, for example, one of the things they do, they go to one of the next cities over, or whose name is failing me at the moment. But there's a chocolate museum that's there, so they'll go visit that chocolate museum. and they'll take a city tour and things of that nature also. And then in addition to those, there are optional additional excursions that are longer. So like a long weekend, overnight, excursions to elsewhere in Spain, such as Galicia or the Basque Country. I think they've gone to Asturias in the past. And these are an additional fee, but they're a really nice part of the program as well. And then we also, in partnership with one of our exchange partners in Korea, we have the CWU Summer in Seoul, which, as it implies, is a summer program for 4 weeks from late June to late July. Students will take 2 to 3 classes at Ewha University, which would come back as somewhere between 9 and 13.5 CWU credits. And again, they have multiple disciplines. Everything except the Korean language classes are going to be taught in English. So they include art, including Korean traditional arts, businesses, Korean language and culture, STEM, humanities, social sciences, things of that nature. Applications for this for 2023 are still open. The partners deadline will be the 17th of May, Korean time, just before midnight. So there's still time if you're interested. And then we also partner with an organization in Costa Rica called the International Center for Development Studies. And they have a variety of offerings in a variety of fields, some of which are in a very specific term, others not. However, all of them do kind of have the common requirement of having at least 1 year of university level Spanish or the equivalent required. So, all right. So, and you've heard me refer several times to CWU faculty director programs. So now we're here where we talk more about those. So these are created and directed by CWU faculty, or in some cases, staff members. The participants are mostly, if not exclusively, going to be other CWU students. You're enrolled in direct CWU credit, so every program is going to have one or perhaps more, in some cases, specific CWU classes that you're going to register for. And as I referred to earlier, some of these can take place during spring break, during the summer, or even what we're terming pre-autumn, which is that space in early September before the quarter starts, before the fall quarter starts. Okay. And kind of as I alluded to, these are discipline specific, so they might be art, music, things of that nature. So here are some past examples, particularly some that might suit students at the centers and the academic programs that are there. So Dr. Stephen Ward, who is in PESH, or whatever it's called, movement studies, within the College of Education and Professional Studies, frequently leads a program, and he is doing so this summer as well, called Teaching and Learning in Ireland, where students will go over and work with students in Dublin, in and around Dublin, and developing lessons and activity plans and things of that nature, while earning CWU credit. There's also bilingual education in Honduras, which is directed by Dr. Terry McCain within the EDBL department. And as it implies, students are going down to Honduras and working with English language learners and using the skills that they've learned in their bilingual ed and TEFL program here at CWU to work with those students. Intercultural communication in Japan is led by one of our faculty in the communication department, teaching intercultural communication, whether the 300 level class or the advanced 400 level class. And so it's taking these concepts of intercultural communication and then delivering them in the context of Japan and Japanese culture. Portion of it will take place on campus or remotely during the summer, during the first part of June. And then they'll travel for about 10 days to 2 weeks to Tokyo, Kyoto, in Hiroshima in Japan, and have activities and local meetings and things of that nature to help contextualize the academics. And then the ITAM program also frequently has service learning in Peru. It was proposed for this summer, but there were some challenges with some of the on the ground, particularly some of the unrest that was going on. And so that will not be happening this summer, but it may happen again in the future. Okay. And I know Dr. Haugen there in Des Moines is also planning for a program in the field of education to go to Spain. More than likely that may be summer of 2024. So that is in conversations. All right. And then also within education, historically, we've had a teaching practicum in Macau program, with the contact being Dr. Gary. It's currently on hold. It's been on hold because of the pandemic, and we're slowly starting to have conversations about how to bring it back, and which will also determine kind of how many terms it's going to be available, who's eligible, and things of that nature. So what has happened in the past, participants have completed their practicum that required for graduation at local schools in Macau. And the work has been typically TEFL focused. So it's different majors within education have chosen to accept this experience as the practicum. Depending on how many hours the practicum is for the students in that major, they've taken, either been registered for either exclusively that practicum, or sometimes they've taken online classes in addition. And these are some of the majors within the teacher training program that have participated in the past. So elementary education, early childhood education, history, social studies, teaching, music, I believe STEM and math education students have also participated in the past. I just didn't have the recall right on the top of my head. If this might be something that is interesting to you, you can email Dr. Gary, and you showing interest might also help her with her conversations to demonstrate that there is student interest in bringing the program back. I think it's going to happen. It's a question of how, but showing student interest is always a good thing. All right. And then we also work with a lot of different outside programs, what we call third party or direct enroll programs, that are either through companies or other US universities. There are a lot more programs out there than we necessarily have direct relationships with, but that doesn't, students are not limited to those organizations with which we do have those relationships. We've had students go through the University of Washington in the past. We've had them go through the University of Minnesota, but then also through organizations like CIS Abroad or USAC, which are what we call third-party sponsored organizations. There's a variety of different terms that are available through these programs, including summer, and sometimes other times it might be a semester program that only overlaps with one of our quarters. But some programs do have true quarters or something approximating that. Models or variety models within these programs as well, so they can be in-class study, the more traditional in-class type of thing. You can do internships either in combination with classes or sometimes standalone. And then there are some that are kind of research focused as well, in a variety of different disciplines. One of those is there's an organization called SIT Study Abroad, where all their programs has some aspect of research within it. Um, um, so, and then there are other ones, like there's a organization also called School for Field Studies that their programs are geared towards ecology and animal husbandry and things like that. So there's some ways a research or practical component to it as well. And as I alluded to earlier, there are programs all over the world. So this can provide access to locations where we don't have direct partnerships. So for example, we don't have an exchange in anywhere on the continent of Africa. So if a student were interested in going to one of those places, this is how they could do that. Um, it's also possible to study or work in English no matter what the local language is through a lot of these programs as well. Um, and then also another model, and kind of alluded to some of it earlier, internship, service learning, and research. Sometimes, like I said, these can be either in through one of these third-party organizations and in combination with classes or as a standalone component. Internships are often customizable, at least to a certain degree, to fit your academic and professional goals, as well as available time frame. You can work with one of our program sponsors, and a lot of students do, but then it is also possible to arrange your own. And we can help you with all of those processes, and you would work with career services to ensure getting credit. Service learning combines in-class learning with service in a community, and it's possible to add on to study abroad or internship programs, where it might be incorporated specifically into some. Um, and then there's a lot of different research opportunities, both at the undergraduate, or there's some research opportunities at both the undergraduate and graduate levels. Sometimes these are structured programs, particularly for undergrads, but then oftentimes students are creating their own research program. And so this happens frequently at the graduate level. Um, but the student pictured here actually, the same summer he did this. This was attending a conference with the UN in Thailand, but in the same summer, he did research he was a McNair scholar, so he had to do a research thesis as part of that. So he spent time in Israel doing research, and he and his advisor set all of that up, and then we help support him from the study abroad side. All right. So these are some significant scholarships, and just a handful. To be honest, we do have another page on our website that covers scholarships. So one is a CWU scholarship that our office manages. Matthew very specifically is the advisor for that scholarship. It's called the Dionysia and James Pappas Study Abroad Scholarship. James Pappas was a professor here at CWU several years ago, many years ago, who supported study abroad. So there's a small endowment that they made for a scholarship, and this is open to all CWU students. We do have, as it mentions here, they are small scholarships, and there's generally limited ones every year, but it is open to CWU scholarships. The two Gilman scholarships, the Boren Scholarship and the Freeman Asia, are all, well, the first three of those particularly are U.S. government funded scholarships. And so students do have to be U.S. citizens in addition to some of the more specific requirements. So for example, the Gilman International Scholarship, students have to receive the Pell Grant in order to be eligible. But for those students who do qualify, it's somewhere between $5,000 and $8,000, depending on the exact nature of their study abroad program. The Gilman McCain Scholarship is limited to dependent children and spouses of active duty or activated U.S. military personnel. And then the Boren Scholarship is for students who are very much geared towards students who are interested in government service at the end of, as a career. Freeman agent, I believe, is also for US citizens, but it does apply, supply a potentially significant amount of money for studying in East and Southeast Asia. And then Fund for Education Abroad is an organization that also, an independent organization that also has scholarships. Sunmi, I see that you raised your hand. Go ahead, Nat.
Just wondering if you can get rewarded for multiple scholarship.
In theory, yes. So it obviously it's going to depend a little bit on the criteria for each scholarship. But like, let's say a student received the Gilman scholarship and then also applied for the Papa scholarship at CWU. We're not necessarily going to not select that student purely based on having received the Gilman scholarship. We do look at other criteria when we're awarding that scholarship. So yes, but the devil's always in the details, right?
Okay.
All right. See, there's some activity in the chat. Just one moment. I try to figure something out. Okay. Any other questions on this? Okay. All right. So there are various ways of connecting with OISP. So Matthew will be leading multiple virtual information sessions, which you can sign up for through our website. And so the campuses that are referred to here in the parentheses, these are the ones he's chosen the day and time in order to be most available to students at those campuses, but they are not by any stretch of the imagination limited to students at those campuses. So let's say you're a student at Des Moines or Linwood, but the one of the information sessions that is designed for Ellensburg students suits you best, you are still more than welcome to take part in that information session for a Tuesday or Wednesday at 11. I know he is working with the director for Wenatchee and Moses Lake to kind of craft some that are geared particularly for those students as well. But this is what we have planned, set up, at least for the remainder of spring quarter. We won't have them necessarily during the summer, but then, or we haven't talked about that quite yet. So we may resume them, but they will definitely take place again in the fall. And we will consult again with our colleagues at the centers to make sure that we choose times that suit you students at the centers the best. So there's that. And then also we will be at the centers. So I will be coming to the West Side centers later this month. So the week of April 17th. And I am planning on doing this once every quarter with the exception of summer. So I will be there again in the fall, for example. And those of you at those centers are more than welcome to meet with me and talk about study abroad. So like I said, I will be during that week, I will be in Linwood on Monday, the 17th. I'll be at Pierce on Tuesday and Wednesday. and then I'll be at Des Moines on Thursday and Friday. And then you can come meet with me in person, or we can do it virtually. You can schedule an appointment with me and just email me, or you're welcome to walk in as well during these hours. These are the hours where I plan to be on campus. And then I will probably we'll reevaluate those hours for fall, and I'll be sure to promote them when we do make the determination on the dates and times that I'll be there in the fall. Matthew is actually at the Yakima Center once a week, and he alternates Mondays and Tuesdays. And he is, again, collaborating with the director for Wenatchee and Moses Lake to determine when are the best times, best days for him to go to those campuses. And he plans to be there about once a quarter, once a month, somewhere in there. So we're trying to make ourselves more accessible to you students at the centers as well. And then you're always willing or welcome to email us or reach out to us by phone, and for advising. And with that, we'll leave it at questions. I know, Bahia, you came in very, very late. I have recorded this, so we can post it later, but if there's something, if you have a very specific question, we can please feel free to ask it, and I have no problem repeating myself. So with that, I will open it up to questions.
Yeah, I'm good. I've answered everything.
I do have a lot of questions, so if anyone have any question, please go ahead, because I have like a whole list of questions right here, and I didn't want to take up time if you guys have somewhere to be.
So I do have a student appointment at 3:30, myself, so I will have to end this before then. If
Yeah,
no one,
then I can, if whatever question I can't get through today, I can ask you when you're at the center on um the week of the 17th.
that sounds like a good plan. And if you want, we can go ahead and make an appointment, so you have a very specific time and don't have to worry about, if someone walks in, or if we just leave it up for walk-ins and someone's there, I'm gonna be with them. So you can email me and we can set up an appointment too.
Yes, thank you.
You're
So
welcome.
yeah, some of my they're not in order as well. So it's a little like jump back and forth between all the topics.
Okay.
So I think you mentioned earlier of the meeting that the costs were gonna be calculated based on resident prices.
That is
So
exclusively for exchanges, by the way.
I'm sorry, what was that?
So that comment was referring to exchanges only. So
Oh,
with,
okay.
so with outside programs, you're not paying CW tuition. Okay.
Okay.
They are setting their own costs. There
Uh-huh.
will be fees that you pay 2 or 3 through CWU at the same time. But in terms of tuition and housing and things like that, with outside programs, those are determined by the program sponsor. With our bilateral exchanges, that list that I showed you with Australia, France, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the program fee for those programs are based on resident tuition for
Right.
that academic year.
Okay. And so if for those programs that is calculated based on the resident, would the same amount be applied for international student, or do we have to pay in the extra?
No, good question. And I don't know if you were on the call when I mentioned that, or but for those students who are international students, you're paying the same program fee that domestic students do.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're not changing it to be based on non-resident tuition for international students. We keep it at the resident student basis.
Okay. And then does the scholarships cover like the entire program, so it will cover part, just pay on based on GPA, or how does it?
So, good question. So the amount that it's available for each scholarship is going to vary by each scholarship. You know, with specifically the PAPA scholarship, is a CWU scholarship. Um, Generally speaking, we have 2 scholarships for students who are participating in CWU faculty directed programs or other short programs that are $500, if I remember correctly, Matthew. And then 1 for students, and this is annually, 1 for students who are participating in longer programs, so semester, quarter, full academic year programs. And that's been, the maximum for that has been 1,200. Is that
Okay.
right? That's right, Matthew?
Yeah, and so the scholarship, different scholarship will have different requirement, like the qualification to meet the
Correct.
scholarship. Okay.
Correct.
And then are all of this study programs happens like at the same time, like there will be multiple ones going on in 2 different countries? Or
Yes.
okay.
So again, it depends a little bit on how we're talking about things. So so during the academic year, whether we're talking about our exchanges, outside programs, they're all going simultaneously, right? And then but then there's also the faculty directed programs, there's the internships, and to some degree those have specific timeframes. So like with the intercultural communication in Japan program, which is the CWU faculty directed program, that's going to take place in a very specific time. There may be other faculty directed programs that take place that summer that may not necessarily overlap the same time. But yeah, so like, the same semester we have students, going to QUT in Australia through the exchange, we may have a student going to Japan through the exchange.
Right. And I think Sami have a question. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Sorry.
Yes. So, Nate, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to stop by at the Peer Center one of the days. Where can I find you?
I don't
there?
think I've been told where I will be at the Pierce Center. Obviously, it's the one on the Steilacoom campus of Pierce County, but which building, which room I'll be in, I am not certain. So I would just go to when you get there, I would go to the main desk of the CWU Center and ask for me.
Okay.
And again, if you want to set up an appointment, just feel free to email me, or like I said, you're welcome to walk in.
Yeah. I just have a briefly have some questions like housing arrangement, why we'll be there, how that work.
It's a very good question. And like a lot of things, you will hear me use this phrase quite frequently. It does vary by program. So with faculty directed programs, for example, a lot of times you're using hotels, because there's such a short period of time. With partner programs or our exchanges or through outside programs, there's 3 basic models of housing that are used across these programs. One is university housing, which may look like apartments, it may look like a student residence, which itself may or may not be like what one would expect here, at least on the Ellensburg campus. There's private accommodation that the program may help you secure. So that could be apartments that you would probably share with other program participants. And then the third kind of archetype housing is homestays. So living with a local family. And this is very common in the Spanish-speaking world, both in Spain and in Latin America. And so like with the Leon program, for example, most students do, well, many students, I will say, do utilize the homestay because it is one, they're there to learn Spanish. And so a homestay, you're getting extra language practice because that family is going to speak to you in Spanish. But then also you're getting increased cultural exposure because you're getting to live with that family and to see how at least their family lives and kind of within that in that part of that aspect of Spanish culture. It is possible in that program to live in a student residence as well. Whereas with like the summer in Korea program, there is a student residence, or students can choose to find their own accommodation, which broadly speaking, not necessarily just in the context of Seoul, but broadly speaking, just trying to find your own accommodation independently can be challenging and expensive. But so like, again, the three main types of housing that are utilized, at least for the longer term programs and through our exchanges and partnerships, university student residence of some kind, private accommodation that the program tends to help students secure, or homestays. Those are the three basic types. And then with faculty directed programs, usually hotels or some variation of that.
So at this moment, I'm specifically interested in the Ewha, the university in South Korea, and that's for only summer, right?
So no, so there are two, basically we have two relationships with EWA. One is the summer program, the CWU Summer in Seoul, which partners with EWA. But then they're also one of our exchange partners, so students can do a semester or academic year at EWA as well through the exchange.
Yeah, but then, so how, what do you call it? Then let's say I have some like required classes like that can substitute like whatever classes I'll be taking there, like.
That's an excellent question, and the short answer is generally yes. So students do take classes at these partners and then transfer them back, and oftentimes it does apply to their major. That is a conversation that students need to have with their major academic advisor about the classes that are available at the exchange partners or whatever program they're doing, if they're doing a third-party program, and how those can translate to their degree program back here at CWU.
Oh, okay. But then for summer, like this coming summer, the deadline is already passed. You said?
No,
No?
not for the CW Summer and Seoul program, and actually not for the Leon program either. So I said the partner's application deadline is May 17th.
Mm.
If I said March 17th, that was a mistake. It is May 17th. So there's still a little over a month left to apply for that program. So I'm using the partner's application deadline because I haven't set one locally for CWU. So basically, I will accept applications for CWU up until it's not possible for students to apply to partner anymore. But there is, for all of these programs, there will be an application through CWU that students have to do. And then with exchanges and outside programs or direct enroll programs, then there would also be an application at that partner for that partner. Oftentimes with exchanges and with like the US summer program, that is a formality to get students into the host university system. We do most of the review on our end to ensure that students are qualified. But with outside programs, our application is very cursory, and then the program sponsor will do most of the evaluation and qualifications and things like that. So if you do want to do the CW Summer in Seoul program this summer, there is still time to do that.
Okay. Yeah. I will definitely stop by the center on either 18 or 19. And I'm looking at the OS, what is called OISB webpage. So
Yes.
I'll check uh check check out on that page more.
Okay. And like I said, if you want to schedule an appointment so that you have a specific time to yourself that you can guarantee access to me while I'm there on campus, send me an email and we can do that.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's it for now. Then I guess I'll talk to you later again.
All right. Thank you. It was wonderful to talk to you. I
right.
appreciate your questions.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Anyone else have any questions? Yeah. Do you have more?
Yes,
Okay.
I do have more. So yeah, hold on, let me go through again because actually a couple of my question was already answered during some Sunme questions.
Yeah.
So for the professor and classes and stuff, would it be like I'm going to school in that country and the class schedule would be like a couple days a week and stuff, like just like how we're going to school in CWU, and would the classes we operate the same way?
So if we're talking about exchanges or through direct enroll programs or through like our third party sponsored programs, then you're going to attend classes like you were conceptually like you were attending classes at CWU, but in terms of like how often they're offered, what the class schedule is, that's
Right.
going to be determined by the host institution, right?
All right.
So
And you said most classes or like all classes will be offered in English?
it depends on the program. So
Okay.
many programs will have a large number of classes that are conducted in English, even if it's not an English speaking country, but that's not universally true. There are programs. So for example, the CW and Leon program, because of the nature of that program, all of the classes are going to be conducted in Spanish,
Right.
right? Because you're learning Spanish.
Right.
For the same with, and so like our exchange at Takashoku University in Japan, students will take, it's designed for students who are Japanese majors who are learning Japanese. So they're
Mhm.
taking a certain number of classes that are designed for, basically like Japanese as a second language type classes. But then because to get enough credits, students are also taking regular Takashoku classes that are conducted in Japanese. On that program, there is no possibility of taking classes in English. Other programs are going to be different, that they may have classes that you can take in English, and that may be all of the classes that they offer. It may be a portion of the classes that they offer.
Okay. And where can I go to for the applications and for the information about what program will be offered?
So you can access that through our website, and I can give you a shortcut to the application website here in the chat.
That would be awesome.
Okay. But then it's also something we can go over in a couple of weeks when you come to see me.
All right. Yes, that sounds good.
Which campus are you on?
I'm in the Moines campus.
Okay. So to find me, go, where Janet and
Yeah.
that front desk is.
Uh-huh.
Go
The
in there
building
and
is
my
like right
office will
across it.
be, what's that?
Your room is like right across it?
Yeah, it'll be pretty much right next to the desk. Did you say you were an international student?
I am, yes.
Have you ever met with Caitlin or Shelby?
Yes, I've talked to Shelby. Yeah,
Okay, I will be in the same office that Shelby uses.
right. Okay. Let's see. And do you know you would be able to share like either the PowerPoints or the information list that you were reading off?
Yeah, like I said, this is recording, so I'm more than happy to share the recording, but I can send you the slides as well if you would like that.
Yes, that would be awesome. Thank you. And then also, if we're not doing so, can we all do study and then internship for all programs, or is that just some programs that we are allowed to do that?
It's some programs that include internships as a feature, not all of them do.
Okay. If the programs does not include internship, we will be able to work.
That
And
depends on local visas,
okay,
and how that relates to your citizenship, right? Because the rules are often different for Americans versus, you know,
okay,
Vietnamese or Chinese or even Brits,
right,
right?
right,
So
okay. And who can I go to ask that question?
the program sponsor once we get to that point.
Okay, sounds good. And I think you said something about Australia. Australia, sorry,
Right.
is one of the good country if I'm majoring business. I mean the College of Business. What are other country available, and what are other programs available for the College of Business?
So basically, anything that has AACSB accreditation
Uh-huh.
is, or there's another one called Equus, and there's a third one that I can never remember. But anything that has one of those three um, accreditations can be good, potentially at least for students in the College of Business, because the College of Business will then accept the 300 and 400 level classes as transfer credit.
Mm-hmm.
Without that accreditation, unfortunately, they won't. Um, of our partnerships, because those are the ones that I know the most off the top of my head.
Right.
Uh, Queensland University of Technology in Australia has AACSB accreditation. Ewa
Mm-hmm.
Women's University in Seoul has AACSB accreditation.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a direct enroll relationship with Curtin University, which is also in Australia,
Mm-hmm.
and they have AACSB accreditation. Um, they also have campuses in other parts. Now, I will say I want to be very careful to make sure that the Curtin relationship is not an exchange, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is a direct enroll. So when it comes time to tuition and fees, they're making that determination of what that cost is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of non-exchange programs in Australia, that the last times we're in the process of renegotiating these things.
Right.
So we don't have a specific number, but the last time I had a number, it was competitive. It was actually for a non-exchange program, it was more cost effective than like some of that third-party sponsored programs. But Curtin University does have AACSB accreditation as well. But there are more in the world. I just can't necessarily say this one right off the top of my head.
Right. And then about the visa situation, would that
Yes.
be something that we have to do by ourselves, or would the school take care of the documents, or?
So there's going to be a couple different phases when it comes to visas, and this is an excellent question because it affects all students. So to a certain degree, it's going to depend on what type of program, but I'm going to couch my answer in terms of exchanges and long-term third-party sponsors, because that seems like what you're asking about the most, right? So what'll happen students will apply both the CWU and to the host institution and or program sponsor. If they have a citizenship that requires a visa in that country,
Mhm.
once they are admitted to the host institution, that university will generate the paperwork that is necessary for the student to then go to the appropriate embassy or consulate or whatever route there is for applying for a student visa to that host country on their own. Okay,
Yes.
so we can't necessarily help students, whether Americans or not. I'm going to be even less help with non-Americans. We can't necessarily help you with that process. What we can do is if you need certain information from the university to like verify your student status, we can help you get that. I can help you read through visa documents to try to interpret them, to give you, say, this is what I think it's asking, kind of thing. But I
Mhm.
can't necessarily give you advice on visas.
Okay.
Do you get, is that kind of clear? I'm trying to make, I'm making a
Yes.
distinction, but
Yes.
trying to be careful, right?
Yes, that totally makes sense. And then I think you said earlier that the deadline to apply for the summer program is May 17. Would
So
that be
that's,
the same deadline for the scholarships?
so that deadline is very specifically for the CWU Summer and Soul program, okay?
Okay.
That deadline does not necessarily apply to any other program,
Okay.
okay?
What about the scholarship? Would there be scholarship still open for the summer soul program?
Um, so some might be.
Right.
Each scholarship is gonna have its own application process and deadline. Um,
And the scholarship application is accepted through my CWU portal?
um, so for outside scholarships, no, right?
Okay.
For CWU scholarships, there are, for some, you do apply through Scholarship Central.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but for the Papa Scholarship, you actually apply through our office. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna actually have Matthew unmute himself and talk about that process and what is available for this coming summer.
Yeah, so the application deadline for summer, fall, and year programs is going to be May 1st. And to be eligible, you just need to have an approved application in the online system.
Okay. And that
And
would be like the general application. I can just look up
yeah,
CWU Directory Summer Soul Programs
So
application.
if you follow
Mhm.
that link that I gave you, put in the
Uh-huh.
chat, that's what he's
It
referring to.
okay, okay.
Sorry,
yeah,
Matt.
and when you get to that site and set up your account, there will be like a series of tabs at the top of your page. And one of those will say scholarships, and then you can search for the PAPA scholarship there.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Steve, or you can contact me, and we can either converse through email or set up a one-on-one advising appointment.
Yes. Sounds good. Thank you. And then will there be any scholarship available for housing or like homestay, anything like that, or is that pretty much on our own?
So the scholarships don't necessarily, it doesn't, so it's just, here's money, right? They're not necessarily applying to any specific thing,
Right.
right?
Okay.
So if you chose to, like, let's say you were awarded the Papa Scholarship, you
Right.
could choose to apply that to housing.
Okay.
But if you are not receiving any other financial aid other than that, whatever scholarship, then yeah, you're on your own for
Okay.
the charges.
And then if I take one of the program during either fall or winter quarter, with my general scholarship, like the existing scholarship, apply towards that program?
That's going to be subject to the terms of the scholarship and how it's processed.
Right.
So without knowing exactly which scholarship, and even probably knowing which scholarship you're talking about, I can't answer in specifics.
It's
Um,
the merit-based international scholarship.
More than likely not, because I believe that's actually processed as a tuition waiver.
Okay.
And so unless you're participating in a program like an internship or some faculty directed programs, uh, where you're actually registered for CW classes
Mm-hmm.
and earning true CW and paying true CW tuition, those are the only scenarios in which where it's possible a tuition waiver could apply.
Okay.
So if you're like with our exchanges, if you're paying a program fee, or if one of the third party programs you're paying their program fee, none of that is true CW tuition, and so anything that's processed as a tuition waiver would not actually work. Okay.
Okay. And sorry, I'm not sure if you're the right person to ask, but it just popped up in my head. So, um, I so when I receive scholarships, that is not paid toward tuition. So, like, let's say, like what you said is I use the awarded amount towards housing. Since it's not tuition, do I have to pay taxes to U.S. government for that?
The scholarship,
Yeah.
that's a good question. I don't actually know.
Okay.
I don't think so, but I cannot swear to it because I am not a tax professional.
Okay.
Um,
I
what?
only know that because I have to do like the international tax closure and stuff, and like they said, if it's not toward tuition, then there will be like a certain tax amount applied. But since it's abroad, and I'm like, do I have to pay the U.S. tax or?
So so we can't answer foreign taxes, right?
Okay.
Right. We can't answer any questions about those because I'm not a US tax expert. I mean, very much not a foreign tax expert. But what I would suggest at least within the US context, one of the things you can do is email Ray Wells in our office.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because he tends to guide students on taxes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've worked with him in the past, because I'm not
Yeah.
exactly sure.
I
Okay.
actually have worked with him a lot, and I bother him all the time. That's still
So,
bad.
he's okay with it, I'm sure. Um, so I would email him and ask him that question because he will know better how to guide you to look
Okay.
than I will, at the very least.
Yeah, because this is all like scenario based, and none of it is happening yet. So
Right.
yeah, I think we went through all of it.
All right.
For now.
So, all right. So again, here's my contact information. So you can email me and we can, if you want to, we can set up an appointment for when I'm in Des Moines.
Mhm.
And then here's Matthew's contact information. So if you want to email him about the Papa Scholarship, for example,
Right.
you can do that. And then you saw the general email that goes to both of us, right?
Right.
You can also use that too. So,
Thank you so much.
all right. Well, thank you for jumping on. I'm glad you did. I appreciate all your questions because it will be good for the recording too. And I will look forward to meeting you in person
Yes, I'm
um,
looking forward to see you as well.
in a couple weeks.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thank you. You as well.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.